and things like that. Well, they have all these games, and you play these games, and you can get better at those games. But the real question is, does that transfer to anything else? I mean, hopefully in your everyday lives, but in the lab, we're not quite there yet. You know, that's going to require a whole other level of sophistication. But as a first step, we just want to see, if you train on a game, do you get better at something else? So that multitasking training game, that car driving game with street signs, well, we tested a few other cognitive functions aside from multitasking abilities. And we saw that after training, older adults' memory got better on a memory task, and they also showed improvements in sustained attention. So that was kind of interesting to us because, well, we would consider that transfer. But, you know, that may have been transfer potentially because those were cognitive functions that were engaged during the training. If you really look at the literature, it's highly conflicted. There are people that say it works, there are people that say it doesn't, and the truth lies somewhere in there. Why does it work for some people? Why does it not work for others? I would expect that it works for some people because, well, one, you need to challenge them. The only way you're going to really learn something is if they're challenged. If it's too hard, you give up, right? It's just frustrating. If it's too easy, well, then you're not challenged and you just space out. You could do this task with your eyes closed, right? So you need to find that sweet spot. So I think adaptivity is key to a lot of these brain training games to put you right in that sweet spot and to keep you challenged and engaged, right? If you're not engaging your brain, what are you trying to do? You're not going to learn anything if you're not engaging your brain. So I think that's one step. The other thing is that if you're looking for transfer, in my mind, transfer really only happens in the context of the training has to improve a fundamental cognitive function that is used in something else. To make an analogy with the body, if I were to train at soccer, play soccer a whole bunch, do you think that's going to transfer to my ability to play golf? Probably not. Will it transfer to my ability to run cross-country? Probably, because when you run in soccer, you're running miles and miles and miles. So, you know, you're exercising your legs. You call that transfer because I just practiced soccer. I didn't practice cross-country. Well, yeah, but you exercise the same muscle groups that are used in both tasks. And so, again, this is an analogy, but I think the same thing's kind of happening in cognitive training. You know, so when we saw improvements on sustained attention after multitask training, is it that surprising? When you're driving a car, you have to keep your brain engaged. You have to sustain attention for long periods of time, or the car crashes. As simple as that. So you are exercising sustained attention when you're multitask training, or when you're doing the training that we tested. As for working memory, we have no idea why that may happen. My best guess is that when you're driving the car and responding to a sign, really, multitasking is kind of an illusion. Really, you're doing one thing, then you do another, and you switch back, right? And so when you're driving your car, if you want to maintain your car on the road while you're reading a street sign and making a decision about it, you kind of have to remember that motor plan. You don't want to just take your hands off the wheel. Oh, you know what? I'm reading you have to remember, there's a curve here, but I still have to keep my eyes over here, although I should keep my eyes over here. That is using memory. You're exercising your memory. So, in hindsight, not incredibly surprised that memory improved, but it's still interesting, and we would still call that transfer, although I think in the end, doing this kind of training was exercising a basic cognitive function that you use in other tasks. And so I think this is where, you know, people need to understand that when you're doing these brain training games, you're exercising the muscles that you would use for that task. If it's perceptual discrimination tasks that are very common in a lot of brain training games, it may improve your visual acuity. Some people make those claims. If you improve visual acuity, well, that'll probably help you remember things or details for things that you might not otherwise see, right? If you were to take your glasses off and I were to show you a picture, do you think you're going to remember that picture very well if you put your glasses back on? No, probably not. So it's all just, I think it's very intuitive, but let me